It started with silence, the kind that made soldiers uneasy and generals sweat beneath their medals. Earth's orbital defense had detected nothing unusual, no incoming fleets, no warnings. Then the skies above Africa tore open with light. What emerged wasn't a fleet. It was a single ship, larger than any human city, shaped like a glowing blade. The world scrambled to react. By the time global militaries moved, the alien vessel had already spoken. Not with threats or weapons, but with a broadcast in perfect English. Do not attack. This is not an invasion. We have come for one thing only. Peace with the human named Captain Elias Ward. Elias was in hiding. Not because he feared war, but because he'd spent 10 years escaping it. A retired field officer, he now lived in the quiet hills of northern Italy, growing tomatoes and watching the stars. When the call came, he thought it was a prank. Then the green light covered his home, and a voice said softly, "You are summoned by Princess Yulani of the Zolari Empire." The Zolari were known by reputation only. No human had ever seen one. Whispers of their power traveled the galaxy like ghost stories. Some said they ended wars with a gesture. Others said they enslaved planets with a smile. But no one knew why their princes would come seeking a single human man. Elias stood on his porch, watching the alien craft hover above the valley. His hand twitched near his old service pistol, then dropped. What would be the point? If they wanted him dead, they would have done it already. Instead, a platform descended, shaped from light, and standing on it was the most stunning being he had ever seen. She was tall and regal, her skin a brilliant emerald green. Silver hair flowed behind her like silk in the wind. Her eyes were strange and glowing like deep wells filled with stars. She wore armor that shimmered with moving patterns, and a crown that looked older than time. And when she stepped forward, she didn't look at anyone else. Only him. "You are Elias Ward," she said, her voice soft but heavy, as if every word carried weight. Elias nodded once. The princess looked at the people around him, at the frightened soldiers, the reporters, the drones buzzing overhead. Then she said, "Leave us." Everyone obeyed. Elias didn't. He just crossed his arms and said, "If this is about that incident on Kalen 5, I had no idea your people were even involved." Her smile was slow and curious. "No, Captain, this isn't about war. Not anymore. Then. Why come here with that?" He pointed to the massive ship still hanging in the sky. "That doesn't say peace. That says power. I needed your attention," she replied. "And I don't know how to whisper across the stars." Elias tilted his head. "So what do you want from me?" There was a pause. Then her lips curled slightly, and she said, "You." Elias laughed once, sharp and short. "You're joking." But she wasn't. The look in her eyes changed, just enough to send a ripple down his spine. Not danger, not anger. Something far more terrifying. Truth. She stepped closer, and the air between them seemed to hum. "Your name was found on ancient scroll buried beneath a temple older than our stars. It described a man who would carry the fire of change, whose touch would alter fate. We didn't believe it. Until now." "That's insane," Elias said. "I'm just a man, a broken one at that. I have no power. You do not see it." She said, "But I do. And now that I've found you, I cannot let you go." Elias turned to look at the soldiers standing far off. Their hands were on their weapons, but none dared move. They were waiting to see what he would do. So was she, and for the first time in years, Elias didn't feel like a man running from his past. He felt like he was about to step into something larger than himself. Something terrifying, beautiful, and irreversible. Still, he had to ask, "What if I say no?" The princess didn't flinch. She reached into her chest plate and pulled out something that shimmered like starlight trapped in glass. "Then I leave," she said. "And the galaxy burns without you." Elias didn't understand what that meant. Not yet. But somehow, deep inside, he believed her, and that belief was more dangerous than any weapon he had ever held. Asterisk. The ride into the alien vessel felt like entering a dream sculpted from metal and music. The interior was silent, but Elias could hear tones vibrating in his bones. The walls pulsed with slow light, alive in a way steel shouldn't be. He didn't speak, and neither did she. Princess Lani walked ahead of him with the poise of a queen who feared nothing. Her flowing hair shimmered beneath the silver ceiling. Every step she took echoed in harmony with the hum of the ship. Elias felt like a soldier again, but this time marching into the unknown with no war to fight. When they reached the inner chamber, Elias expected a throne or a court. Instead, there was a tree. Tall, twisted, glowing with pale green veins that pulsed like a heartbeat. Beneath it stood a small table and 2 chairs. On the table was a sealed box made of transparent crystal. Inside was a single band of gold, carved with symbols he could not read. "What is this place?" Elias asked quietly. "Our ancestors." "Heart," she said. "The tree grew from the remains of the one who first made peace between empires. Under this tree, all bindings must be spoken in truth." "I didn't agree to anything yet," Elias said. Princess Ilani nodded. "You haven't, but you will. Not because of duty. Because your heart will demand it." He frowned and took a step closer to the tree. The leaves moved without wind. The air smelled like rain after fire. "You think I'm some chosen one, some hero from your prophecy. But I've made mistakes. People died under my command." "We know," she said. "And still you were chosen." She opened the box. The ring floated above her palm, rotating slowly in the air. "This is not a wedding," she said. "It is a pact. If placed upon your finger, it binds you not to me, but to fate itself. If you are false, it burns. If you are true, it glows." "That's a pretty dangerous gamble," Elias muttered. She didn't reply. She simply offered it to him. Elias stared at the ring. It was beautiful, yes, but it felt like a trap. Not a trap to harm him, but one he would never escape. His instincts told him to walk away. His heart told him to stay. He took the ring. The moment it touched his skin, it glowed faintly. No pain, no flames. Just a steady warmth that sank into his hand like sunlight through fog. Princess Yulani exhaled softly. "Then it is true. You are the flame-bearer." "I don't want to be the flame-bearer," Elias said. "I just want my life back. That life ended the moment you answered me," she said. Elias looked at her. She didn't smile. She didn't cry, but something had changed in her eyes. The glow had softened. The way she looked at him now was no longer regal. It was personal. He set the ring down on the table. "Then tell me the truth. Why me?" Yulani sat across from him. Her hands rested on the table. "Because I dreamed of your face before I ever saw Earth. Because our oldest oracle screamed your name as she died. Because every path we have tried without you ends in ruin." "That's a lot of pressure," Elias said. "Yes," she replied, "and I will carry it with you." A soft chime rang through the chamber. Yulani stood. "The council is waiting. They demand your presence before the binding is recognized. What if I walk away right now?" Elias asked. "Then the ring will darken, the vision will vanish, and the last hope for peace between your world and mine will vanish with it." Elias looked at the tree. Its leaves shimmered gently, as if it too were waiting for his answer. The air was heavy, but not hostile. "Just expectant," he sighed. "Fine, let's meet your council." She nodded once, and the chamber's doors opened like blooming petals. Outside, more guards waited, all dressed in ceremonial armor and silent as stone. But every one of them turned to face Elias as he stepped forward, and not a single one looked at him as just a man anymore. The council chamber was a hollow dome carved from a single crystal, large enough to hold a cathedral. Lights moved like rivers along the walls, shifting with every breath, every step. At the center stood a floating platform, surrounded by 12 tall chairs arranged in a circle. Each seat held a figure cloaked in layered fabrics that shimmered like oil on water. Elias could feel their eyes before he could see their faces. The pressure was subtle but constant, like standing at the center of a storm that hadn't decided whether to destroy or embrace him. Princess Lani walked beside him, no longer just his guide. She now walked as one who stood between him and judgment. Her voice rang clear as crystal when she spoke. "Council of Elders, I present Elias Ward of Terra, bearer of the flame." A murmur rippled through the chamber, not made by mouths but by thoughts. The Zalari did not always speak aloud. Their voices lived in the space between ears and minds. One of the council members stood. A male, tall and narrow, with skin like golden bark and glowing red eyes. "We warned you not to bring him here," the elder said. "Prophecies are not truths. They are guesses dressed as fate." Lani remained calm. "Yet the ring chose him. The tree did not reject him. That is more than prophecy. That is proof." Another elder leaned forward. Her features were hidden behind a veil, but her voice was thick with suspicion. "Humanity has burned many bridges across the stars. They are feared, not trusted. Why should we believe he is any different?" Elias spoke then. "Because I didn't come here to ask for power. I came because she asked. And because I want to understand why I matter to you. You matter because the galaxy is collapsing," said the first elder. "Old enemies rise again. Alliances crumble. And the shadow that once consumed our stars begins to move once more." Elias frowned. "What shadow?" "The nullborn," Ilani answered. "A race without light, without thought, without soul. They devour. They do not speak, they erase." "We fought them once before," said an elder. "And we won only because the flame-bearer led us." Elias's stomach twisted. "I'm not him. I'm not whoever that was." The council fell silent again. Then the crystal beneath Elias's feet began to glow. A hologram formed above him, a map of the galaxy, marked with burning points of light. As he watched, the lights dimmed one by one. "This is now," Yulani said. "Systems vanishing, worlds lost, peace breaking like thin glass." The lights flickered, then vanished completely. In the darkness that followed, one light remained. It pulsed at the edge of the galaxy. "Earth," Elias stared at it. "So that's why you came to me. You think Earth is the last chance." "No," she said. "I think you are." One of the elders leaned forward. "We will vote. If you are chosen, you will be trained. You will be tested. If not, you will return to Earth, and your world will face what comes alone." Elias turned to Yulani. "What happens if I pass the tests?" "Then you become more than human," she said. "You become what the stars remember." The platform began to descend. The chamber faded into soft green light. The vote had begun. Elias felt no fear, only weight. Like the galaxy was sitting on his shoulders, waiting to see if he could stand. Lani didn't touch him. She didn't speak. But her eyes never left his. And in that silent moment, Elias understood she wasn't bound to him because of fate or duty. She had chosen him long before he knew she existed. The decision was made without fanfare. One by one, the 12 elders lowered their hands. In silence, a pulse of light shimmered through the crystal chamber. Ilani turned to Elias and gave him a short nod. "The council has accepted you." Elias didn't cheer. He didn't even smile. Deep inside, he felt something crack open, like a sealed door he didn't know was inside him. It wasn't pride. It was responsibility. The elders rose and left. Without another word, Lani led him down a winding corridor of polished stone and flickering lights. They didn't speak until they entered a chamber filled with floating spheres. Each sphere showed a different world in motion. "These are the crucible worlds," she said. Training grounds forged in artificial space. Here you will be tested, not in simulations, but in truths. I've been through training before, Elias said. War camps, live combat. I've bled for planets. Not like this, she said. These trials don't measure skill. They measure soul. She held out her palm. A new ring floated there, smaller than the first. It was dark red, etched, with marks that pulsed faintly as if alive. This will be your key, and your burden. Elias took it without hesitation. As he placed it on his finger, his surroundings melted away. Not with sound or flash, but like falling into water without a splash. Suddenly, he stood on a shattered world. Ash blew in the wind. Burnt trees clawed at a red sky. The air stank of smoke and sorrow. A figure knelt in the distance, clutching something in its arms. Elias walked toward it slowly. The figure was a child, human, crying over the body of a woman who no longer breathed. The child looked up. His eyes were not full of tears. They were empty. Elias dropped to one knee. Who did this? The child pointed toward the hills. Black shapes moved like ink in water. They had no faces, no feet, only long arms and hollow chests. Elias stood and drew the blade that had suddenly appeared at his hip. One of the shapes rushed him. It didn't run. It flowed. Elias swung, cutting through it. The creature vanished into dust, but another rose behind it. He fought through them, one after another. Every swing was heavier than the last. The world itself seemed to drain him. Not just his strength, but his will. Then he saw her. Lani stood on a ledge above the battlefield, glowing faintly. She didn't move, didn't speak. But her presence gave him breath when he thought he had none left. The final creature reached for the child. Elias threw himself forward, cutting. Threw it with a cry. The world froze. Time locked in place. A voice echoed in his ears, not Lani's, not his own. He chose to protect, not escape. The world cracked and shattered like glass. He stood once again in the chamber of spheres. Lani looked at him with something new in her eyes. Not hope, not belief. Respect. That was only one world, she said. There are 6 more. Let's get on with it, Elias replied. You will be changed, she warned. Some return broken. Some return not at all. I've been broken before, he said. But I've never had someone waiting for me at the end. Yulani's lips parted. Not in command, but something closer to fear. You speak like we are already bound. He looked at her. Aren't we? Asterisk. The next world was not ash and fire. It was silence and light. Elias found himself standing on an endless plain of glass, the sky above a swirling canvas of color. There was no sound, no wind, no movement. Only reflection. He looked down and saw 100 versions of himself, each one different. A soldier, a child, a killer, a broken man, a man in love. They moved even when he stood still, acting out moments from his past. Every choice, every mistake. This was no battlefield. This was memory given shape, pain without blood. A mirror forged from guilt. Then one reflection stopped. It stared at him directly, copying nothing. This version wore no armor, no scars, just simple clothes and eyes full of shame. You lied to her, it said. Elias didn't deny it. When she asked what you wanted, you said you as a joke. But you meant it. He looked away. It was never supposed to be real. I didn't come here to fall for her. But you did, the reflection replied. Elias clenched his fists. Does that make me weak? The reflection shook its head. No, but if you pretend it isn't real, you'll fail this trial. And you'll lose her. The world shifted again. The reflection vanished, and Elias stood alone in the glass field. The ring on his finger pulsed once, bright and warm. The world accepted his truth. When he opened his eyes again, he was back in the chamber. Lani was seated, waiting, But this time her hands trembled. "You passed," she said. "But something inside you changed. It's getting harder to let go of what I feel." Elias replied. She stood and walked to him. "Then don't. The stars don't ask you to be perfect. Only honest." "I didn't know I could care like this again," he said. "Not after everything I've lost." Lonnie reached up and touched his chest. "You haven't lost me." They stood close now. Not commander and soldier, not royalty and outlander. Just two people pulled together by forces they didn't fully understand. The chamber lights dimmed. A low tone echoed through the floor. A new voice called out across the air, deep and full of static. "The Nullborn have entered known space. Outer colonies are vanishing." Elias looked at Lonnie. "Then we're out of time," she nodded. "The last trial waits. And after that, war." Elias stepped forward, no hesitation in his stride. "Show me the last world." "I'm ready." Elania's eyes glowed again. This time, not with power or mystery, but with something almost human. Elias stepped into the last trial without speaking. His body was whole, but his mind felt carved open. The previous trials had tested his strength and his truth. This one was different. Cold, empty, waiting. The world around him looked like a void. There was no ground, only a soft glowing mist underfoot. No sky, only darkness above. And in the center of that emptiness stood a gate. It was made of iron that pulsed like veins. Behind it, shadows twisted with the shape of the Nullborn. He could not see their faces, but he felt their hunger. A voice spoke inside his skull. "Would you protect her even if it cost your soul?" Elias breathed deeply. "Yes. Would you still love her if she chose war over peace?" "I would try." "Would you let her go if your path threatened her future?" Elias didn't answer right away. Then he whispered, "Only if she asked me to." The gate began to open. Light poured from beyond it. The shadowy figures recoiled, hissing in pain, but one stayed. It stepped forward, shaped like Elias but hollow. Its chest was a gaping wound filled with stars. "I am what you could become," it said, "if you let fear guide you. If you wear power like armor instead of a promise." Elias looked into the eyes of his other self. "Then I choose differently." The hollow figure lunged, silent and fast. Elias didn't step back. He let it strike him. The pain was real, but it didn't matter. He grabbed the figure's arms and pulled it close. "I am not you." The light grew blinding. The shadows screamed and vanished. The gate shattered. Elias stood alone again, whole bleeding, but burning from within. The mist faded. He was back. In the chamber. Lonnie rushed to him, her face twisted in something close to terror. "You were gone for hours. For me, it was only minutes," he said. She touched his shoulder and gasped. "You carry the flame now." "I can feel it." Elias looked at his hands. They glowed faintly with golden lines that pulsed beneath the skin. He didn't feel stronger, just more awake. "Then it's done," he said. "I passed." Lonnie nodded. "But not without cost. The gate you broke was not part of the test. It was real. It was a boundary the Nullborn never expected us to cross." "What does that mean?" "It means you've changed the path of war. They will come for you now. Not Earth. Not me. You." Elias stared at the walls. The lights no longer felt soft. They felt like warnings. "Like the calm before the next storm. Then let them come," he said. "But I won't face them alone." Elani took his hand and didn't let go. "Never." Asterisk. The stars burned red when the Nullborn arrived. They didn't come in ships. They came as storms, ripping open the space above the council world. They poured through in silence, swallowing light. As they spread, the alarm did not sound like a siren. It was a deep tone felt in the bones, the warning of a species that knew extinction too well. Elias stood on the balcony of the palace, staring into the heavens as shadows descended. Behind him, Lonnie spoke to the commanders, Orders were given. Shields activated. Fleets aligned. But everyone knew this battle was not for them to win. It was for him. Elias turned and walked into the war room. No armor, no helmet. Just the ring on his hand and the fire now living in his veins. He stopped in front of Ilani and reached for her hand. "Are you afraid?" she asked. "Not anymore," he said. "Not while you're with me." A wave of energy passed through the building. Walls shook. Lights flickered. Outside, ships exploded in silence. The Nullborn had breached orbit. Lonnie touched his chest. "If you fall, I will follow." He shook his head. "No, if I fall, you run. You build again. You find another way." "I refuse," she whispered. "Then don't let me fall," he replied. Together they walked to the central spire. At the peak stood a platform of light. Elias stepped into it. The ring on his hand began to glow brighter than ever before. A beam of golden fire burst from the spire and struck the sky. The Nullborn turned toward it. They felt the flame. They feared it. And they came for it. The battle above raged. Ships twisted in unnatural angles. Beams of void light tore holes in reality. But from the center of it all, Elias rose into the air, his body wrapped in light. Not as a weapon, as a beacon. Every soldier who saw him felt the fear in their hearts begin to fade. Every ally across the system turned toward the flame. Even the council bowed their heads. And the Nullborn paused. In that single breath of silence, Elias spoke. Not with words, but with his presence, his truth. He was not chosen by prophecy. He was not born for greatness. He had simply decided to stand, and it was enough. The beam expanded. A wave of light swept across the battlefield. Where it passed, the Nullborn cracked, unraveled, dissolved. Not destroyed by violence, but unmade by the one thing they could never consume, hope. When the last shadow vanished, Elias collapsed to his knees. The light faded. The sky returned. And silence fell. Lonnie ran to him, dropped beside him, and cradled his face in her hands. "Elias," she said softly. He opened his eyes, weak but smiling. "What do you want?" He whispered. She laughed through tears. "You," she said. His hand found hers, and this time she didn't let go.